Live from ABC7, this is Eyewitness News at 7 p.m. on LA56.
Protesters rally over a deadly police shooting on Skid Row. This as a homeless man's criminal past comes to light.
A big break in a local LA cold case. Detectives announced an arrest in the kidnapping and killing of a teen more than a decade ago.
And there's still about an hour left to cast your vote on this election day, but how will low voter turnout affect the many races at stake? Good evening, I'm David Ono.
And I'm Rutabaga Shabazi in for Colleen Sullivan. This is Eyewitness News on LA56, LA's only live local newscast at 7 p.m. More protests today as demonstrators rallied against the use of deadly force. This as we're learning more about the man killed in Sunday's officer-involved shooting on Skid Row. Eyewitness News has identified him as Charlie Robinet. Previous reports that he was a French national are not true, according to the French embassy. As Eyewitness News reporter Robert Olguin reports, the man spent 14 years behind bars on federal charges.
About 200 demonstrators marched from Skid Row to LAPD headquarters. They gathered in support of this man, 39-year-old Charlie Robinet. Eyewitness News has learned that Robinet is the man who was fatally shot during this confrontation with 5 LAPD officers.
This is modern-day lynchings. We're not calling them killings no more. We're calling them lynchings.
Demonstrators this morning demanded that the officers involved in Sunday's shooting be held accountable.
Because we done watched it happen over and over and over again.
Inside LAPD headquarters, many of those same demonstrators lashed out at the department and its handling of the shooting, which happened Sunday afternoon in Skid Row.
Your intention was to kill this man. Thank you. Next. That's what this officer's intention was, and your intention is to cover it up.
Members of the police commission assured the crowd that the shooting would be investigated thoroughly.
I would encourage people not to rush to judgment. It isn't fair to anyone to rush to judgment.
The LAPD has maintained that 3 of the responding officers opened fire after the suspect grabbed an officer's pistol. 2 officers were wearing body cameras, but the department doesn't plan to release the video until the investigation is complete.
The body camera is collected by police officers. It is protected under the evidentiary code. We will release it in appropriate civil or criminal proceedings.
Eyewitness News has learned that Robinet was convicted of robbing a bank in Thousand Oaks in 2000. Robinet spent more than 14 years in prison and had recently been released.
He didn't have to die like that. He was a mentor, but he was a good people.
The U.S. Marshal says that Robinet was wanted for a parole violation, that a warrant had been issued recently for his arrest. Reporting from downtown Los Angeles, Robert Olguin, ABC7, Eyewitness News.
The crime was 2 decades old. It took jurors just over 2 days to reach a verdict. They found Sam Lopez guilty of the stabbing death of his former girlfriend and Cal State Fullerton student Kathy Torres. The jury convicted Lopez of first-degree murder. Torres was stabbed more than 70 times back in 1994 in Placentia, her body stuffed into the trunk of her car. Lopez faces 26 years to life in prison, and his sentencing date set for May 1st. An arrest in the 12-year-old murder investigation of Brenda Sierra. The suspect, a woman who was a teenager at the time of the crime, made her first court appearance today. Eyewitness News reporter Amy Powell is live in Monterey Park with the latest. Amy?
David, it has taken more than a decade, and investigators say their work isn't over. They expect to make 3 more arrests. Investigators believe the teen was murdered by gang members. 27-year-old Rosemary Chavira appeared before a judge in downtown Los Angeles this afternoon, facing charges for the 2002 kidnapping and brutal murder of a 15-year-old girl. Chavira was arrested at her Lancaster home on Friday.
The complaint charges Chavira with the special circumstances of felony murder during the commission of a kidnap, rape, murder, and gang allegations.
The kidnapping happened in October of 2002. 15-year-old Brenda Sierra was walking to school in Montebello when she was abducted. The next day, her body was found in the Crestline area of San Bernardino County. Investigators have tied Chavira to locations in East LA where Sierra was raped repeatedly and bludgeoned to death. Authorities believe the innocent teenager was killed by gang members in retaliation after her brother testified in a drive-by shooting case. They say Chavira played a key role in the crime.
It's our understanding that she actually was a friend of Brenda at the time and coordinated the kidnap itself. Evidence indicates to us that she was present during the rapes and during the murder.
Investigators say tips from the public helped them build their case during the lengthy investigation. More arrests are expected soon.
And the investigators anticipate that within the next 30 days, similar charges will be filed against 3 additional male suspects, alleging kidnap, murder, and rape also.
2 of those other suspects are already in custody in connection with other crimes. Chavira entered a not guilty plea today. She could face life in prison if she's convicted. In Monterey Park, Amy Powell, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Amy, thank you. The man suspected of killing 2 people during an illegal street race in Chatsworth has been charged with 2 counts of murder. Investigators say 21-year-old Henry Gavorkian was driving a silver Mustang that swerved across the road and crashed into a crowd of spectators last week. 2 people died and another person was injured. Gavorkian fled the scene but turned himself in over the weekend. If convicted, he faces a maximum possible sentence of 33 years to life in state prison. Police are still searching for the driver of the other car. The engineer of the train in last week's Metrolink crash in Oxnard has died. 62-year-old Glenn Steele, Metrolink's longest-serving engineer, was declared dead at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center this morning.
More than 24 other people were hospitalized as a result of the collision with a pickup truck on the tracks. Last week, the Ventura County DA said no charges were filed or being filed at the time against the truck driver, Jose Ramirez. But the Oxnard police chief now says Steele's death could open the possibility of a vehicular manslaughter charge. Well, it is Election Day here in Los Angeles, and you still have a little bit of time left to cast your vote for the more than 30 candidates competing for city council seats in 7 races. Eyewitness News reporter Alex Michelson is live at the polling station in Los Feliz with a look at voter turnout and the races. Alex.
David, because voter turnout has been so low, your vote actually matters a lot more. You've got an hour left to go. At this polling place here in Los Feliz, there are 2,500 people registered to vote here, but so far only 66 have shown up. All over Los Angeles, we've seen nearly empty polling places. Turnout could be as low as 15%.
I do think something needs to be done.
This LA City election is not being held at the same time as a presidential, gubernatorial, or congressional election. That changes if voters pass Measure 1. It would move city elections to even-numbered years by 2020.
Most of the people of Los Angeles don't even know that there's an election in March of an odd-numbered year.
No one in the community has asked for this. This is a generated process by elected officials.
Also on today's ballot, several city council races. City Councilman Jose Huizar is in a close race against current County Supervisor Gloria Molina. In District 6, current City Councilwoman Nori Martinez is running against Cindy Montanez, who she ran against previously in a close special election race. In District 8, Bernard Parks is retiring due to term limits, and there are 2 men and 2 women battling to replace him. In District 4, Tom LaBonge is retiring due to term limits after more than 2 decades of service. There are 14 candidates battling to replace him, and it's anyone's guess who will win.
It's the fact that there's so many strong candidates. I actually think it's good for the voters. This is a very high participation district. A lot of different groups, a lot of active people, and they want to see people who respond to their issues.
And we've seen a few more people show up in the last few minutes to vote here. Again, you have less than an hour left. If you want information on where your polling place is, head to the LA City Clerk website. If the candidates do not get 50% plus 1 tonight, then the top 2 candidates in the races will move on to a runoff. Reporting live from Los Feliz, Alex Michelson, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Alex, thank you. And we will bring you results from today's election on Eyewitness News at 11 o'clock at KABC and on abc7.com/vote.
Congress has passed a bill to fund the Department of Homeland Security and has sent it to President Obama to sign. It's a major defeat for House Republicans who tried for months to link the funding to a rollback of some of President Obama's executive actions on immigration. But they were unable to muster the votes and were facing criticism at the prospect of Homeland Security being partially shut down. The $40 billion bill funds the department through the end of September.
We're hearing audio recordings of a man identified as Jihadi John complaining about his treatment by a British intelligence agent back in 2009.
Just started, going on, trying to put words into my mouth, saying, no, you're doing this, and we're going to keep a close eye on you, Mohammed. We already have been. We're going to keep a close eye on you, threaten him, and, just went out.
Mohammed Emwazi is the real name of Jihadi John, the ISIS executioner who was recently unmasked. The tapes come from conversations Emwazi had with the Muslim advocacy group CAGE. The group has been widely criticized for suggesting that harassment by British security officials may have pushed Emwazi toward extremism. And Iraqi forces, along with Sunni and Shiite fighters, are doubling down their efforts to recapture the key city of Tikrit from ISIS. The extremist group has controlled the town since last June. This fresh offensive will be an important gauge of how effective the coalition's training has been for the Iraqi army.
In an appearance arranged solely by Republican leaders, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Capitol Hill this morning, thanking Americans and the White House for continued support despite the controversy that swirled about his visit. ABC's Karen Travers reports from Washington.
Congress rolled out the welcome mat for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
His Excellency Benjamin Netanyahu.
But underneath the applause, there's controversy. The visit comes as the U.S. and international allies work toward a nuclear agreement with Iran, and Netanyahu has not held back his criticisms of the Obama administration for that potential deal.
We must all stand together to stop Iran's march of conquest, subjugation, and terror.
The speech has been marked by controversy from day one. Republican House Speaker John Boehner extended the invitation to Netanyahu, but didn't include the White House in his planning.
We not only tarnish the grand tradition of the joint session, we also run the risk of politicizing diplomatic relationships, in this case, a very special relationship.
President Obama said today he didn't watch the speech, but thought it contained, quote, nothing new.
On the core issue, which is how do we prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, the Prime Minister didn't offer any viable alternatives.
In Geneva today, Secretary of State John Kerry met with his Iranian counterpart in the latest round of the nuclear talks. The Obama administration has said they want an agreement that lasts at least 10 years, but
I want to be very clear. A bad deal is worse than no deal.
This is the third time Prime Minister Netanyahu has addressed the U.S. Congress. There's only one other person in history to do that, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, back in the 1940s and 50s. Karen Travers, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
Up next, a new twist to the Cal Fire sex scandal.
Plus, a look at the federal crackdown on maternity tourism operators targeting dozens of local facilities.
Also aware a volcano blew its top, sending thousands of people scrambling from molten lava.
And fantastic video. A weasel hops a ride on a woodpecker. See what happens next.
Of course, it's every day. Jonathan Novak here. Beautiful day, running springs, showing just a few clouds, but we have warm weather in store. Details in your 7 days. Stick around.
A sex scandal involving 16 members of CAL FIRE is growing. The Sacramento Bee is reporting allegations of employees using state cell phones to send sexual photos, make appointments with escorts for sexual activities, and to access adult websites. One firefighter was fired for allegedly making unwanted sexual advances towards a woman at a bar and then lying about it.
From the beginning, taken these allegations that were made and taken what we found during the investigation very seriously, and I think that the action we took against these employees, from discipline with termination to reduction in pay to suspension, shows that seriousness.
The appeals process is going on with several employees with the State Personnel Board.
Federal officials are cracking down on so-called maternity tourism operators who arrange for pregnant Chinese women to give birth in the U.S. As Eyewitness News reporter Greg Lee explains, court papers show hundreds of babies whose mothers were Chinese tourists were all born at the same hospital in Orange County.
Members of local and federal law enforcement served search warrants at more than 50 locations in Orange, San Bernardino, and LA counties this morning. One of the targets, the Carlisle Luxury Apartments in Irvine. Investigators believe it's the headquarters for a Chinese maternity tourism scheme.
Thousands of women come to the U.S. every year for the purpose of having their children born as U.S. citizens.
A court affidavit says the business uses this website, yyusa.com, to advertise. The Chinese title of the site translates to "You Win Vacation Services." Pregnant women pay $40,000 to $80,000 for housing, food, transportation, and fraudulent visas.
These people were told to lie, how to lie, so that their motives for coming to the U.S. wouldn't be questioned.
The affidavit estimates that since 2013, 400 babies born at just one Orange County hospital have been linked to this scheme. Linda Trust lives at the Carlisle and has seen the operation firsthand.
I saw a man that had like a big dolly thing piled to the ceiling with diapers.
She says it's wrong and is now thinking about moving out. One neighbor, a Chinese immigrant, thinks otherwise.
Come on, people go across the border to have a baby from Mexico all the time. So what's the problem?
In this 100-plus page affidavit, it says this investigation started thanks to an anonymous tip to the Irvine Police Department. Reporting in Irvine, Greg Lee, ABC7, Eyewitness News.
Well, tonight, thousands of people are on the move in southern Chile after a violent volcanic eruption triggers a massive lava flow. The volcano, about 400 miles south of Santiago, sits above a city of some 22,000 people. It erupted overnight, spitting lava into the sky. Lightning could be seen striking the volcano from the ash cloud that formed overhead. Lava flows are not the only worry. Snowmelt from the intense heat has caused rivers to surge and could trigger mudslides.
All right, well, Jonathan Novak joining us now, and a little change in the weather maybe.
Maybe a big change by the end of the forecast. Can you believe we just went from a couple of storm systems? We had hail, we had a funnel cloud, we had rain, some snow, a lot of snow, and we could have 80s by the end of the week.
Wow.
I know.
Southern California.
They say New England is where you get all the seasons. I feel like we get it all, but it's all at once. It's all in a week. Yeah, it's all in one day. All right. This is from earlier today. How about that? Big Bears, just thank you for that. It's a beautiful shot from our time-lapse over that little peak there, that little mound, to get some of that low cloud cover still kind of hanging on over the Big Bear area earlier on today. And the temperatures were on the cool side for sure. Temecula was in the mid-60s. Woodland Hills, Pasadena, upper 60s. Idlewild was 47. Ontario, 64. So today was the coolest day for the most part for the forecast. We're going to start a warm-up. It's going to take a few days, but we'll get up to what looks like 80s by the end of the work week. 58 right now in downtown. It is calm. It is a somewhat pleasant night, maybe a little bit of a chill. So I'd say, yeah, bring the jacket with you if you're heading out. It is 57 Van Nuys, still 28 in Big Bear. Big Bear, you were 12 this morning. And tomorrow will be cold, maybe not that cold, but it's going to be a chilly morning for you tomorrow. 58 Ojai right now in Ontario is coming in the same spot with 58 degrees. So way down here at the bottom of your screen, you see this little bit of a spin that's pulling away into Baja. That's that last low that rounded the base of that trough. Now to the west, you see right here, this is a ridge of high pressure, and that is going to be building in over the next few days, and that's going to mean warmer weather for the entire 7-day. Check it out in the future scan. The change we have is high pressure building in, as I mentioned, but you'll notice from Wednesday into Thursday, that change doesn't change. Again, it's high pressure through Thursday High pressure through Friday and into Saturday. In fact, it's right over us for Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday. And that means temperatures could be in the mid-80s by Saturday and Sunday. For tomorrow, we'll get up into the 70s. So we're going to take a few days to get there, but 71, not bad, right? About average, and maybe a little bit warmer than that. 71 Anaheim, upper 60s in the IE, mid-60s Dana Point. That 7-day forecast for LA Metro and Orange County. Powered up by AccuWeather. Add another 4 degrees from Wednesday to Thursday for the highs, and then about another 6 to Friday, and you're into the 80s at that point. You don't see any rain here, maybe a little bit of morning cloud cover next week, but it's just a really nice forecast. Beautiful in the valleys for a couple of days. Warm and beautiful from Friday on through the weekend. 85 on Sunday, guys. That's just amazing, if you ask me. Beaches, 65. Nice weather tomorrow. Sunny and temperatures in the 70s for the rest of the forecast until you get to next Tuesday. We'll be back in the 60s. But the mountains, a couple more real cold, I'd say cool afternoons, 40s, and then you're into some mild weather Friday on into the weekend. And in the high desert, a little breezy, but nice, 60s, and then into the 70s from Friday and Saturday and Sunday. That's it for me. Back to you guys.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan. And have you seen it? It's one of the craziest pictures we've ever seen, a weasel flying piggyback on a woodpecker. But is it real?
You may have seen it in the movie Epic, characters riding on birds. This new picture circulating online becoming pretty epic itself.
I don't know, it just seemed like maybe he needed to ride somewhere.
It looks accidental, but I would say friendly in the end.
Never seen anything like it before. Veterinarian Dr. Jocelyn Kwan says it's quite possible this happens in nature, but extremely rare to catch it on camera.
The weasel was relatively smaller compared to the size of the woodpecker there, but yet he attempted to bring this woodpecker down.
What appears to be a weasel riding a woodpecker is being talked about the world over. The photos posted online by Martin Lee May from the UK, who says this is actually a hostile ride, the weasel attacking the bird. So maybe not quite as victorious as Sebastian's ride in The Never-Ending Story, or as comforting as a flying superhero.
Easy, miss. I've got you.
But amazing to behold nonetheless. We have no way to verify the authenticity, but Lee May tells Eyewitness News the photo is real. We do know the duo is definitely inspiring some pretty incredible photoshopped memes featuring Russian President Vladimir Putin, Gandalf, and even the famous dress, blue and black or white and gold.
And the story does have a happy ending. The photographer telling us the weasel must have been distracted by him falling off the woodpecker and allowing it to fly away to safety, leaving the weasel disappointed in the grass.
Still doesn't look real to me, Rudabay. Thank you for that report. Up next, a local man says that he thinks same-sex relationships that are physical should be punished with death in the state of California, and he's taking steps to put it on the ballot. Plus, confessions for a new generation, a priest listening to people confess their sins over Snapchat, and not everyone likes this idea. And a jury has been seated in the Boston bombing case. Will the widow of one of the brothers be called to testify?
An Orange County attorney wants to make homosexual sex a crime punishable by death. Matt McLaughlin filed a ballot initiative for what he calls the Sodomite Suppression Act. His proposal says that so-called offenders should die by bullets to the head or any other convenient method, so that the rest of the people in California don't face God's wrath. McLaughlin's initiative also pushes for a ban on what he calls sodomites in public office. It would also make it a crime to distribute what he calls sodomistic propaganda. He wants violators to face a fine of $1 million per occurrence, 10 years in prison, and permanent expulsion from the state of California. The state attorney general's office is reviewing the submission.
A Texas priest is offering a 21st century solution to the faithful who are behind on confessing their sins: Snapchat. The priest in San Antonio is making himself available to hear digital confessions via the social sharing app Snapchat through March 16th. He prefers to stay anonymous, but he can be reached through @PriestDavid. It's unclear that church, if any, or what church Priest David actually belongs to.
I see your real please.
I don't know.
We're updating the evening's top stories next at 7:30.
Including the LAPD opens its doors to show how it trains officers for situations like that deadly confrontation on Skid Row, as we learn more about the man who was killed.
Plus, explosive new details today of the Justice Department's investigation into the Ferguson, Missouri Police Department.
Live from ABC7, this is Eyewitness News at 7:30 p.m. on LA56.
Our top story at 7:30, demonstrators took to the streets today to protest this weekend's deadly police shooting on Skid Row. I'm Rudabe Shabazi in for Colleen Sullivan.
I'm David Ona. This is Eyewitness News on LA56, LA's only live local newscast at 7 p.m. We have learned that the man killed was a convicted bank robber who had recently been paroled after spending more than a decade in prison. U.S. Marshals say that he had a warrant out for violating probation. Eyewitness News has learned that the homeless man is 39-year-old Charlie Robinet. Police say he was shot after he reached for an officer's pistol during a struggle, but protesters say it is an unjustified use of deadly force.
It's hard to imagine what goes through an officer's head in those life-threatening situations, but tonight we're getting a look into what it's like to walk in the LAPD's shoes. Eyewitness News reporter Melissa McBride took a turn in the department's crisis situation simulator.
What's your name, sir? I am not moving. Step back. Step back.
LAPD officers run through a simulation. It's part of their training to help them deal with mental health calls. Officer Dion Joseph has been working Skid Row for 17 years. He encounters many people who are mentally ill and on drugs.
You don't want to create the circumstance. You don't want to exacerbate the situation. You want to stand at a distance. You want to speak at a calm voice. You want to respect them. If they're sitting down, sit down with them. Stay calm.
How the LAPD handled Sunday's deadly officer-involved shooting of a homeless man has critics questioning the department's training to deal with mentally ill people on Skid Row. To get a better understanding of what officers go through, I went through a simulation. The scenario is my partner and I are on our lunch break when a man comes out of his house.
What's that? You want some swamp? You want some?
Hey, now hold on.
We're not here to hurt you.
I had no time to react. My partner could have tasered or pepper sprayed the man as he came at me, but this scenario did not call for lethal force.
You have the ability to tactically redeploy and request additional resources, and he's there in front of you. You've got eyes on. There's a lot of options.
Police say they often have to make split-second decisions. Officer Joseph says just last week a mentally ill woman on Skid Row grabbed him from behind, but he quickly realized she was on drugs and meant no harm.
Let's say she wasn't laughing. I probably would have gotten to a use of force, not because I want to, not because I hate the mentally ill or the homeless, but because our job is as unpredictable as humanity.
Police say the goal is always to try to de-escalate a situation. In the last 6 months, 102 LAPD officers have gone through 36 hours of mental health intervention training. Reporting in downtown LA at LAPD headquarters, I'm Melissa McBride, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
We're getting a look at the findings of a Justice Department investigation prompted by police officer Darren Wilson's fatal shooting of Michael Brown last summer. According to sources familiar with this report, which could be released tomorrow, it finds widespread patterns of racial bias in the Ferguson, Missouri PD, specifically that officers routinely discriminate against blacks by the use of excessive force, make baseless traffic stops, and issue petty citations. It also finds that the discrimination extends through the city's criminal justice system to the courts and the jail. However, a separate report, also set to be released soon, is expected to clear Wilson of civil rights charges in the Brown shooting.
A small plane has crashed in the dry riverbed in Mentone. The accident was reported just after noon today. Several agencies responded to the crash near Garnett Street and Mentone Avenue. The pilot was the only person on board the small yellow, blue, and red biplane. He was airlifted to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. No word on what caused the plane to crash.
The parents of 3 victims in last year's Isla Vista rampage are suing Santa Barbara County, the Sheriff's Department, and the apartment building where the suspect, Elliot Roger, lived. The announcement came at an emotional news conference today.
The evil killer took away our son's life. But there's one thing he could never do. He could never stop us loving them.
The lawyers say Roger had confrontations with other roommates before the victims moved in with him. They're also suing the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department for not doing a more thorough welfare check a month before last May's massacre. Roger killed 6 people and injured 14 others before killing himself.
A lawsuit today against the nation's oldest and largest youth soccer organization. Attorneys for 4 boys sexually assaulted by a soccer coach announced plans to file the sexual abuse civil suit against AYSO. All 4 were abused by Renoir Valenti between 1996 and 2012. They were all under the age of 10 when the abuse began. Their lawsuit says complaints were made against Valenti and red flags were raised, but that nothing was done. Attorneys for the victims say AYSO has policies in place but doesn't follow them.
Renoir Valenti was a veritable Pied Piper of children. This was an adult man who was constantly surrounded by children. And you would have to be deaf, dumb, and blind as an organization not to be aware that there is something wrong when an adult is spending all of this time with kids within your organization.
We reached out to AYSO for comment but have not heard back. Valenti is serving a sentence of 130 years to life in prison.
A jury has been seated in the Boston terror bombing case. Opening statements are set for tomorrow. ABC's Brian Ross has an exclusive look at the widow of one of the brothers, why the FBI is tracking her tonight, and will she testify at the trial?
Growing up in Rhode Island, Catherine Russell was the daughter of a well-to-do doctor's family who fell in love, converted to Islam, and changed her name to Karima to marry Tamerlan Tsarnaev, the man who would later be identified as the mastermind of a horrific act of terrorism. Tonight, law enforcement authorities say Russell herself is under investigation and could face criminal charges in connection with the marathon bombing over whether she knew but kept quiet about what her late husband Tamerlan and his brothers Dzhokhar were up to, men who prosecutors say were caught on camera placing the marathon bombs. After her husband was killed in a police shootout, the then 24-year-old Russell denied to the FBI knowing anything about the attack.
As a mother, a sister, a daughter, a wife, Katie deeply mourns the pain and loss to innocent victims.
But now law enforcement authorities say they believe Russell accompanied her husband to this Macy's store in Boston 2 months before the attacks and helped to buy 5 pressure cookers, 2 of which were used to make the deadly bombs.
Somebody's up to something other than cooking food that buy 5 pressure cookers.
Since the bombing, Russell moved to New Jersey. She's the one in black, to live near the sisters of her dead husband, where our Boston station, WCVB, caught up with them.
Get lost!
Authorities say the FBI put Russell under surveillance during last year's marathon, and they continue to track her to this day.
Again, that was ABC's Brian Ross reporting. He says because Russell is the target of an ongoing investigation, she will probably not be called to the stand tomorrow, even though she clearly knows a lot about what the 2 brothers were doing before and after the bombing. All right, we have breaking news going on right now. A home goes up in flames in Walnut. This is a live picture from Air 7 HD, a large presence by the LA County Fire Department. It's tough to see. It's very dark out there. But those flames are what is left of this large home in Walnut. They're trying to get it under control. The flames are a lot smaller than they were just a few minutes ago. There was some concern that a couple of people might have been in the house, but according to the fire department, they did search the house. They have found no bodies, so they believe the home is right now unoccupied, and then hopefully nobody was hurt in this fire. But we're going to stay on top of it. We'll keep you posted.
Former CIA Director David Petraeus has agreed to plead guilty to mishandling classified materials. According to prosecutors, Petraeus gave binders of classified material to his former mistress and biographer, Paula Broadwell. The plea agreement carries a possible sentence of up to a year in prison, but prosecutors recommended 2 years of probation and no prison time. The scandal marked a fall for Petraeus, who at one time was thought to be a potential presidential candidate. New questions surrounding Hillary Clinton and her alleged use of a personal email account while serving as Secretary of State. During her 4-year tenure, Clinton allegedly didn't have a government email account, which automatically stores information for public records. Last year, the State Department requested former Secretaries of State submit their emails. According to the New York Times, only 55,000 of Clinton's emails were handed in. Some are concerned about possible security breaches and even transparency. This matter is expected to become a campaign issue. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, a potential 2016 candidate for the White House, tweeted this late Monday: "Transparency matters. Unclassified Hillary Clinton emails should be released. You can see mine here." The tweet includes a link.
Well, up next, the bank robbers known as the Black Hat Bandits have struck again. But this time, did they make a critical mistake? A look at the clues they left behind.
Plus, the sports star turned superstar dad taking on his daughter's bullies. posting their names online after what they did.
A delightful day today. It was dry, but we have summer-like weather ahead in your 7-day. I will detail it coming up in a few minutes. Stick around.
The gang of bank robbers the FBI is calling the Black Hat Bandits has struck again, now hitting a bank in Virginia, their 8th heist so far. But this time they may have left behind a key clue. ABC's TJ Holmes has the story.
Faces covered, guns in plain sight. You're looking at 2 brazen bank robbers accused of 8 heists so far, and the FBI says the 2 are getting more and more dangerous. They're known as the Black Hat Bandits. Their latest target, this Wells Fargo bank in Falls Church, Virginia, Monday afternoon. Witnesses say they ordered everyone to the floor at gunpoint, shoving those who weren't moving quickly enough. An observant bystander called police from outside.
Police received a phone call from an individual who stated they saw 2 unknown males going to the bank with black masks on.
But by the time police got there, it was too late. The bandits reportedly speeding off in a getaway car driven by a 3rd suspect.
There was a guy running across yelling. We like, man, what's going on? Wells Fargo's getting robbed. Came through the cup right here and cut through the bushes over there.
The FBI says the Black Hat Bandits have robbed 8 banks since January, all in Maryland and Virginia. And in at least one case, they put a gun to a customer's head.
There was guns raised to customers in the bank as well as tellers. It doesn't get much more violent than that.
But this time, a potential clue. Authorities preserving possible footprints in the snow Monday with cardboard boxes, later casting a mole. A possible key piece of evidence towards stopping the Black Hat Bandits before they strike again. TJ Holmes, ABC News, New York.
Former Boston Red Sox pitcher Curt Schilling is going to bat for his daughter, who is being blasted on Twitter. Schilling was a proud papa when he tweeted last week about his 17-year-old daughter's college acceptance. He said, "Congrats to Gabby Schilling, who will pitch for the Sol Regina Seahawks next year." Well, that resulted in his daughter getting cyberbullied. Multiple people posted vulgar and sexually explicit comments about her.
I grew up playing sports. I know what it means to be a guy. Never in my life have I ever uttered half of the words that these guys were posting.
Nobody should be able to get away with saying things like that to a father about their daughter.
So, Schilling took screenshots of the mean tweets and posted them on his blog. One of the tweeters was suspended from Twitter and his community college. Another tweeter reportedly lost his job with the Yankees.
All right, well, get ready for a change in our weather. Meteorologist Jonathan Novak has his complete forecast up next. Northwest in sports.
I'm so excited. It's overwhelming.
The Narbonne girls basketball team celebrates a partial victory at their appeal of a controversial ruling involving the wearing of the color pink.
And 3 high school juniors join an elite club when it comes to the SATs. Why their accomplishment is so rare.
Welcome back. Meteorologist Jonathan Novak joining us now. We've had some crazy weather lately and more changes to come.
I don't know if it appreciates that, but
well,
it's out of here, so it doesn't suit you anyway.
Unusual.
Just FYI next time. Don't let it hear you say that. We have temperatures that are going to be in the 80s in the forecast. Can you believe that? After temperatures were cold enough aloft to bring hail.
Sounds crazy to me.
Okay, fair enough. You know, I'm not saying it wasn't justified or true. Just, you know, Mother Nature can be finicky. And this past weekend was interesting because we had funnel clouds, we had hail, we had, flooding. And now we're looking at temperatures being in the summer-like type of range. This is a beautiful shot from Big Bear on time-lapse earlier. Some cloud cover, some lingering moisture, and it's just a nice image to see the snow on the ground. About 5 to 10 inches with these last couple of systems, then the one last week at the top of that. Today, it was 67 in downtown Los Angeles. That's the high that we're looking at right here. Normally, we're at 69, so today we were below average, but tomorrow we're going to change that, and we're going to start seeing a big warm-up going in to the end of the work week. 59 in Burbank this evening. It's a comfortable night. It's not terribly cold. It's not terribly mild. It's pretty seasonable. 59 in Fullerton, 62 Santa Ana. Wrightwood, good evening to you. It is 32 below freezing in Big Bear and 61 Palm Springs. The weather pattern is changing a lot. This is that big trough of low pressure right here, this big dip in the atmosphere. And this last piece of energy that rotated with it is getting out of here south of the state. This arc to the west of us, it's building into the eastern Pacific. This is a ridge of high pressure. And why this is important is high pressure generally will warm us up and keep those skies clear. So if high pressure heads right over our area or nearby, we'll start seeing those offshore winds, those Santa Anas, and the temperatures will really warm up. Will that happen? Yeah, it will. It's going to take a few days to get there, but the high will eventually drift eastward, and we'll start seeing a little bit of a Santa Ana wind event going in later in the forecast. It's not going to be terribly gusty, but the temperatures by Thursday, check this out. See this right here? That's that ridge of high pressure. Into Friday and into Saturday, right over the western U.S. And so 80 to 85 degrees Friday into the weekend. Get the shorts back out. You're going to need them. All right, tomorrow, 71 in Los Angeles, just above average, 70 in Simi Valley, 60 up in the Antelope Valley, 70 in Long Beach, and 65 Temecula for your high temperature tomorrow. 70 forecast, LA Metro and Orange County. Looks like this. We've got a warming trend for a few days, and then we're just going to stay right there in the lower 80s for the weekend. Next week, maybe a little bit of moisture nudging its way in for some morning clouds. Otherwise, it is nice, sunny, and dry. Valleys, i.e., a couple of days in the mild range there, 72 to 76, and then you're going to be really warm, 84, 85 Saturday and Sunday, respectively, and still in the 80s next Monday. Beach looks nice. You got to get through a little bit of a cool day tomorrow and then into the 70s for the rest of the forecast. The mountains, a cold morning today. Tomorrow's a little bit better, only 23, and then into the 50s by Friday. The high desert, a little gusty as you go into the latter part of the forecast, but otherwise it's just good stuff, guys. The rain, we had a couple of them the last couple of weekends, but it's out of here for now. Back to you.
All right, Jonathan, thank you.
You're welcome.
The old saying goes, no good deed goes unpunished. That's exactly what happened yesterday when the CIF ruled that Narbonne girls basketball would be bounced from the playoffs for wearing uniforms promoting breast cancer awareness. This morning, a CIF appeals panel reversed that decision, so now Narbonne will be able to play in the city championship on Saturday. That's the good news for Narbonne. The bad news, their coach, Victoria Sanders, was suspended for the rest of the playoffs. That was a trade-off for allowing her team to continue to compete.
I'm okay with that. I take that. You know, I take full responsibility. And the girls are well prepared, so they know what to do out there on the floor and stuff. I have my assistant coach, Tommy Pickett. He'll be in there. And then also, too, I just confirmed with our boys coach, Anthony Hilliard. He'll also be in there coaching as well.
Well, this made us very happy, and we're very, very grateful that, you know, the decision was altered and changed. And, you know, we really thank Coach because she didn't have to do that. And, you know, she even sacrificed her not being there. I know that's really big to her, so we're completely grateful, and we want to just say thanks to the CIF for making that decision to just, you know, change it after all this happened.
NBA now, the Lakers on the road in Charlotte. Jordan Clarkson got the Lakers going early on. The rookie point guard with 11 points in the first half as the game was tied at 50 at the half. LA starts the second half, though, slow, and the Hornets take advantage as they built an 11-point lead. Al Jefferson with a big game, 21 points, 16 rebounds. Jeremy Lin, he continues to play well as of late, 23 points and 8 assists. His triple cut the lead to 11 headed to the fourth quarter, but Mo Williams, he was clutch down the stretch. The three ball makes it a 6-point lead with a minute to play, 20 points and 13 assists for Mo. The Lakers, they end up losing their second straight game, 104-103 is the final.
Well, a perfect score on the SATs is a pretty big deal, and here in California, typically just one student in 5,000 manages to do it. So imagine the excitement at Arcadia High School, where 3 students got perfect scores. They talked to Eyewitness News reporter Giovanna Lara.
What are the odds that 3 students from the same high school would all get a perfect score on the SAT?
It seems almost godlike to me.
Yet these 16-year-olds at Arcadia High School beat those odds last November, earning 2400s on one of the most difficult and stressful tests for high schoolers.
Going into the SAT, I just told myself I shouldn't stress too much about it. So I kind of took a laid-back approach.
Hannah Lee, Titus Wu, and Jeffrey Wang all took the same SAT prep course, but they say it was what they did throughout their school careers and on their free time that might have been the real key to their accomplishment.
Mainly, if you work hard in school, if you try your best in all your classes, and if you especially read a lot, you will definitely do much better than average.
Titus says he reads newspapers to relax. Jeffrey prefers magazines like The New Yorker.
You could sort of pick up on their writing style and you begin to think more analytically.
But these students aren't just super smart, they're active in school clubs, sports, and even Boy Scouts.
It's not just about taking a test, it's about being very intelligent and knowing how to apply that intelligence.
They're humble too. Each one says they were completely surprised by their top scores.
I literally thought like someone pranked me. like sent me the wrong web page or something, I was just amazed because I didn't expect that at all.
I was really scared to check my score, but when I finally did, I literally screamed.
In Arcadia, Giovanna Lotta, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
That's quite an accomplishment. More news straight ahead here at 7:30 and ahead tonight on Eyewitness News at 11 on ABC7. We're learning new information about the homeless man shot to death by LAPD officers, secrets revealed about his hidden past. Eyewitness News takes you around the world to a discovery of biblical proportions, secrets of the ancient Dead Sea Scrolls revealed for the first time in an Eyewitness News special report. These stories and all the late-breaking news on Southern California's #1 late newscast, Eyewitness News at 11 on ABC7. Thanks for joining us for Eyewitness News at 7:30 on LA56. Law and Order SVU is next here on LA56.
And Eyewitness News continues at 11 p.m. on ABC7 and anytime on ABC7.com. Good night.